Hey, welcome. It's Captain Matt, Boater Secret Weapon. I want to thank you for joining us for this Sunday night live. We're getting ready to start here in just a couple of minutes here. We'll start about 8:30, but I wanted to welcome you. If you've never been to a live, here's what you can expect. Just go ahead and chat in your comment section, whether you're on Facebook, whether you're on YouTube. Just ask your question, leave your comment there, and then as we go through the time, I just kind of scroll down all the comments and I try to answer them. Now, if it's something that I need to ask you a question, I may ask you a question and just put it in the chat again, and I'll come back and I'll get that information so I can give you a more personalized response, something that's going to really add value for you. This is just something I do. One, it's great fun. I really enjoy it. It's helpful for the community. Just sharing my knowledge. Now, one thing that you need to know, I don't know everything about boats. I know a lot about boats. I've been a boater since I was 5. I've sold boats. It's something that is a big part of my life. With that said, I don't know everything. Matter of fact, sailboats, have zero experience with sailboats. Bass boats, very little experience there. Bow riders, deck boats, center consoles, jet boats, twin engines, stern drives, outboards, inboards, all of that I have experience with. And if I have an answer, I'll give you my best answer. If I don't have an answer, I'll try to give you a resource that will be valuable for you. If I have an opinion, I'll try to give you that opinion, but let you know this is what I think, not what I absolutely know. So I look forward to it. Here's a little video intro that a subscriber made for me. Thanks, Bo. And we'll see you on the live when it kicks off here in just a moment. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Looks like we got a good group going tonight. Ray, Kings in the City, Rob, Jerry, Chase Bank, welcome. Brock, good to have you. Corey, good to have you as well. I am a little tired today. We were in Tennessee. If you were on the live last week, I was in Tennessee. And at my in-laws' lake place, we had a great time. Helped the neighbor with finishing up his dock project. He was restructuring and rebuilding his dock from some rotted wood, and so he ripped out all the bracings down to the metal and to the pilings, and we rebraced everything and redecked. I helped with some of it. He did most of the work. But I was a gopher for him. So we did that. We got out on the water. My girls did a little bit of wakeboarding, some tubing, just some cruising and floating. Had a great time. Unfortunately, my wife's grandfather passed away. So we went from Carolinas to Tennessee, from Tennessee to West Virginia, had the wake and the funeral. Spent another day up there with family, and we got back late last night, and then we'd been gone for almost 2 weeks with all of that, and so we had all of the mowing the lawn and getting stuff unpacked and all of that. But I'm here for the live, and hopefully we have some good questions coming in today, and I am looking forward to chatting with everybody. Corey, welcome. Had a great week in Lake George. Great weather, family and friends. That is a beautiful lake. I've done a little bit of work with Boats by George up there, and they've got a great team with I think they've got some Cobalt, Barletta, Malibu, I think, and Chris Craft. They might have another one up there, but I've seen some pictures. I've not been up in that area though, but it looks beautiful. So, Corey, that's not where you're from? That might have been a vacation. Let me know. Let me know how you ended up at Lake George and picked that spot, because I like exploring, getting to different lakes and hearing about different lakes that people are boating on. Tony, good to have you. I appreciate Tony invested in the best boat captain promo that we did the other day, a Christmas in July promo. Thank you for that, Tony. Appreciate it. Let's see. Brock said almost pulled the trigger on a Triton TR21 Merc 250 Pro XS. Rode nice, clean. The guy didn't have a single service record. Yeah, don't want to buy someone else's problem. It's one of those things. I've just created. It's interesting you made that comment, Brock, because I just put together. Let me see if it's there. You go. How to maximize your boat resale value, and that's having the maintenance log is one of them. I mean, not only will it help you build the value, but it can help you a real legit buyer with money in hand. It can make the difference. That boat's only 3 years old, but man, having those service records can really be important, especially for people that know what they're buying. Sometimes people that don't really know much about boats, that are buying their first boat specifically. That's why I offer the toolkit, but it's easy for them to get taken advantage of, because they don't know what they don't know. And somebody says, I don't have service records. They're like, I don't have service records for my car, so I wouldn't ask for that on a car, but on a boat, a little bit different. So, well, hopefully you find the right thing. I assume you're fishing with a buddy, or maybe running your dad's boat on until you replace the one that you had. Facebook user, what's a good horsepower for our first pontoon? We would like a little speed at times. We got a visitor. Oh, my daughter's favorite outfit, her Galaxy outfit that she's
not my favorite.
Oh, it's not your favorite? She is outgrowing, but doesn't want to admit it.
I'm not outgrowing it.
Okay, I'm telling you, you're right. You're right.
Why am I walking this way, but I'm...
Because I don't have it mirrored. I just have it regular. So that way, when I show my shirt, it reads right. It reads Boater Secret Weapon instead of, see how it reads right there. And if I mirror it, then that's reversed, but everything, my face looks normal. But
okay,
that's how it is. Thanks for stopping in.
Oh, I just dropped the water.
Okay. Shut that door, please.
It might have mold in it. Well, it probably doesn't.
Well, why don't you take it down for the dishwasher, please? Okay. So Facebook user, I'm not sure. Not sure what your name is. A couple of things. The first suggestion is pontoon horsepower. Let's see here. All right. So I've got a video on the channel called How to Choose the Right Horsepower for Your Pontoon or Tri-Toon Boat. How fast do pontoons go? This one right here. Let me go big on that and little on me. So this one right here, it's a 8-minute video, and that will give you the answer that you're looking for. But because there's some questions that I need to know. So what size is the pontoon? Is it, and it's sort of a, how many people and how big are the people that you're taking with you, and what level of tune are you getting? So some of the bigger, more luxurious pontoons, they've got a lot of weight on the boat in furniture. If they've got fiberglass accents on the boat, on the fence rail specifically, I'm thinking like the Harris Crown, the Bennington Q, the new Barletta, whatever Excalibur, I don't know what it is, that Grand Majestic on the Some of the silver waves have some fiberglass. But anyway, that adds a lot of weight, which means that you're not going to get as much speed from the same horsepower. So that matters. The size of people that are on the boat matters. So for me, I'm 6'2", 225, and let's say I'm with my parents. I'm a little person in my family. So my brother's 6'4", probably 280. My dad's 6'4", 6'5", probably 300. So you get 3 or 4 of us on the boat, and that's different than if you're a normal sized person and you weigh 170. And most of the people with you are 170, and the kids are 100 pounds. So that's going to lead you to a little bit bigger horsepower. But and when you say would like a little speed at times, a little speed that's kind of it's hard to say what a little speed means to you. To me, I'll tell you what it means, and then you can give me your if you want to respond, give me what you're thinking a little speed means, and we can have that conversation. So if you want to pull people on tubes, just putting around, nobody's getting real crazy. A pontoon with a 90 is going to do low 20s, maybe mid 20s if it's on the lighter side, lighter load, fuel, gear, people. Okay, and I'm assuming at least 25-inch pontoons when I talk about this. 115 is going to give you a little bit more power, get you a little bit, not much more top end speed, but it's going to get you a little bit quicker out of the hole if you've got weight on the boat. If I'm doing water sports, I like to say 115 is about the minimum. If you're doing it with young kids and you're not too concerned about speed. If you want to make the jump, going from a 115 pontoon or bitoon, if you want to call it that, to a 150, not 115, 150 horsepower with a tritoon. And that's going to give you a little speed. Okay. So when I say a little speed, that's going to get you running in the high 30s with a normal load, maybe perfect conditions. You can get low 40s out of it with, 2 people on the boat, the bimini top down, and quarter tank of fuel, maybe. But I'm like I said, I'm a bigger guy, and I can slalom ski with 5, 6 people in the boat, couple adults, couple kids. I can get up slalom skiing on that setup with lifting strakes, which you'll probably have in that setup anyway. So that's when you say a little speed, that's kind of my either the 115 pontoon or the 150 tritoon is probably the way to go. Don't want to spend a lot of money on gas. Here's the thing about horsepower and fuel is the bigger horsepower engine you have, sometimes the less fuel you're going to burn because you can run that boat at lower RPMs to get the same speed. So if you've got a 90 to get 18 miles an hour, you have to run that at maybe 5,000 RPM, right? If I've got a 115, or let's say a 150 to get 18 miles an hour, I can maybe run 4,000 or maybe in 3,800 RPM. So although you would think bigger horsepower means more gas, the reality is most of the time, bigger horsepower at lower speeds means less gas. Now, at wide open throttle, the 150 is going to burn, 5 gallons an hour more than a 90. But you're not usually on a pontoon. You're not usually running wide open throttle. But check out that video. I think it'll be helpful for you and give you some thoughts there. Let me just scroll up and see if do you get soaked going on a personal watercraft? I'm not sure. Like, do you get wet? If it's smooth and you know how to run it, you can run it without getting wet hardly at all, just on your feet. If you don't know what you're doing, or it's rough out and you're jumping waves and you're having fun, yeah, then you're going to get splashed a couple of times. But I could run a jet ski all day and probably barely get wet at all, if that was a goal of mine. So it kind of depends. But if you don't know what you're doing, then yeah, you're gonna hit a wave wrong, and you're gonna get a splash up over the bow, or you're gonna fall off. depending on how big the ski is. So, all right. So hopefully that helps you out there, Facebook user. Thank you, Corey. I appreciate it. He was 96, had Parkinson's for the last several years. He was in the VA hospital up in West Virginia. Had a military funeral. He was in the Navy and fought in World War II, and re-enlisted and fought in Korea. So he had a military funeral, 21 gun salute. We got the flag, the whole deal. His wife passed away 5 or 6 years ago, and it just a lot of people had a lot of great things to say about the man. I've only known him for the last 15 years. Whenever I met my wife, and met him for the first time, just a really nice guy, and you hate to lose him, yet he went fairly quickly once it got bad, and dealing with Parkinson's. I had an uncle that passed away from Parkinson's several years ago. It's a tough one. It's a tough one. If you know anybody dealing with it, you know what I'm talking about. So Mech 15, welcome. Good to have you. Kings of the City, if you ever take a trip up north, check out Raystown Lake in central PA. All right, so I like to do this. Raystown Lake, central PA. All right, let's see here. I'm liking the picture already. It's a reservoir up in the mountains, it looks like a little bit. Let's see, what pictures do I want to look at here? Yeah, that looks really beautiful. If you can, let me go big on that. Yeah, that looks like a very, very pretty lake. I also like a good sunset. If you guys ever want to send me something, I love a good sunset photo on the water. That is, it's one of my favorite times on the water is just hanging out, watching the sun go down. So, thank you for sharing that, Kings and City. Let's see. Chase Bank says, took the family down to Table Rock Lake in Missouri a few weeks. Had a lot of fun. Finally got my 7-year-old to jump off the dock with me. Awesome. That is, it's memories like that will be, one, he may not remember the first time he jumped off the dock with you. But that will be with you. And let me see here if I can. I'm not a super organized person, but I've been trying to throw some pictures in a folder. I've been trying to throw some pictures in a folder to share on these lives. So this was not from this trip, but this was from the previous trip we took in June when my oldest wanted to go to the lake for her birthday. That's a catfish that I filleted, and we had some fish nuggets. Let's see here. Oh, that's her. She went on it was kind of rainy that day, and she caught a carp. But this is what I love doing on the water. Just playing with the kids, hanging out, and having a good time. That's what that was. So yeah, that is, to me, that's those types of things. Chase Banks, that's what it's all about, is doing those things for my kids, doing it with my kids. And I love it. I love it. All right, let's see what else we got here. New Jersey, been going to Lake George 17 years. Absolutely beautiful. Yeah. And Chase Banks, we go to, I don't know if I've got a picture of that handy, but my family's been going to the Lake of the Ozarks since I was 5 years old. In 1979, 1980 was the first time we went down there. And I bet it's less than 5 years of my life that I didn't make it to the Ozarks at least once. And here, speaking of, this is one of my favorite. This is when I was selling boats. A client of mine sent me this. This is one of my favorite sunset photos that I've got. Matter of fact, ooh, where was I? Oh crap! I was going to show you. It was. No, I can't find it now. But my wife and I's engagement party was at the Lake of the Ozarks. So, but with all, I've been going down there so many times. I've never been to Table Rock. It's right next door, but I've never been there. BC Outdoors, welcome. Good to have you. All right. Brock says, when I sold the Ranger, I gave the guy a 2-inch binder full of every dealer service, all the receipts, and gave him the manuals to the graphs and the electronics. That's awesome. I haven't printed out my spreadsheet, every single gallon of gas that was run through the tank. See, now that's a boat when you buy it, you're like, this that you couldn't get any better than buying one of Brock's boats. When Brock finally says, okay, I'll look to maybe if somebody makes the right offer, I'll consider it. If you have the opportunity, that is going to be a well cared for boat. Probably, I don't care how old the thing is. The best cared for boat that you could come across if you are a buyer. So that's awesome. It makes a difference. I mean, I don't know, and I don't think Brock will mind me saying he got a great deal, or he got a great offer on his boat that he's like, I didn't really want to sell it, but for that price I will. When you take care of your boat that way and you have that level of detail on the service records, that can boost your resale value up. It truly can. And it also keeps you on track, so you know what you've done, what you haven't done. Jerry says, big day out on Chesapeake today with the wife and yellow lab. Use the Argo app for auto routing. Both legs of the journey for the first time. Highly recommend it. Yeah, it is. When I first started, I liked Savvy Navi more. But now that I've been using them and testing them, I still haven't done my video the way I want it, because I want to do all 4 of them. I want to do Savvy Navi, Argo, Navionics, and Wave. I think those are the 4 most common. You could probably change Wave out and swap in a different one, but have all of the screens going and do a couple of different trips. But what I really like about Argo, I don't know if Jerry, if this is how you use it or not, but I like the Google Maps search feature. I like to go to restaurants, and if I'm at a lake I've never been to or a body of water I've never been to, and I don't know where the restaurant is, but I know it's on the water, hey, just search it up. Or if I don't know the name of it, I don't know the GPS coordinates, just search it up. Boom, it pulls it up right there, auto route to it, and you find it. I tried to use it the other day when we were filling the boat up to put it away, and so my daughters came to the marina with us, or with me, because they wanted to get a pina colada at the restaurant at the marina. Unfortunately, they were closed, so I went to Argo and searched ice cream. Turns out it was a Monday or Tuesday, I don't remember, but there was no ice cream shops open, so they got gypped out of their ice cream, which they weren't super happy about. But that's one of the reasons I really have shifted my opinion and going to Argo. And even in our boater boot camp, this free boater boot camp, I reference in the video the ones I like, and then I say I'll update it as things adjust. And I've updated Argo to be my number 1 on that. They don't pay me anything. I don't get anything from, I think, Steve I can't remember. I've talked to him a couple times, but I've heard he's a super nice guy. I've talked to him a couple times for a while, and he seemed really nice. But there's no payment from anybody. But I think that's the best one right now as well. So thank you for sharing that. Works well as an adjunct to the Garmin chart plotter. Yeah, for sure. Having that secondary source. Speaking of grass and electronics, has anyone used the SmartCraft link or gateway for Mercury? Does depth and everything show up on the gauges? Been using my phone for maps, but overheating and it dies. Yeah, that is. I find that mine, if it's really bright and sunny out, I find that on my iPhone that sometimes I can't see it. So I've got to get under a towel and look, which isn't ideal if you're cruising. And There's probably a setting I can adjust to my phone to fix that. But and the overheating is definitely another one. Thinking of the gateway and a real chart plotter. I'm going to defer, as I do with most electronics and graph questions. The chart plotters, and Brock is very experienced with this, but this is the one piece that I add, and then Brock gives a little bit more detail because he has a lot of experience with that. Is they're all pretty good, but find a brand and stick to it, because as you get into the menus, you'll find it's easier to progress with a certain brand because their menus are all laid out, and sometimes you need to go 2, 3, 4 menus deep to find the setting that you need or the adjustment that you want. It's more consistent across brands than there's not just a standard. There's not just a standard for how the menus are laid out. And then also, what the buttons and the navigations are, and you really get quick and efficient at it. And then Chase Banks, I don't remember what kind of boat you have. I'm going to say a Chaparral, but I don't know if that's accurate or not. Facebook user, we haven't bought one yet. Usually we just have 2 to 6 of us on the boat. Yeah, this was what pontoon horsepower would you go with? I think for anybody that wants speed, you can cut out the 50, cut out the 75, the 90 with 2 people. I would say, that's going to get you low 20 to low 20s maybe. But that if probably out. I would go 115 is, hey, a 115 does pretty well with 2 to 4 people on the boat if they're, if nobody's a real heavyweight, a 200-pound plus person like myself. But if you're going to be 6 and you want to be able to get up and go if the weather picks up or to do water sports, I think the 150 is, in my opinion, it's probably the best bang for the buck on a tri-tune that you can get horsepower wise. It's going to give you enough to do what you want to do, unless you've got 6 heavyweights or 8, 10 people on the boat. You'll be able to do everything that you want to do. If you are over that, maybe bumping up to the 200 or the 225 will do you right. But I think the 150 is, you get a lot of value out of a 22-foot tri-tune with the 150 and just the sport tune. I don't even think you need the full length tri-tune. And Facebook user, if you haven't, check out my YouTube channel, because I've got a ton of pontoon videos on there. I've got a best and worst, how fast are pontoons, why your pontoon is slow. There's a ton of pontoons, the difference between pontoons and tri-tunes, and mistakes pontoon boat owners make. There's a whole bunch of stuff. If you really new this ultimate first time, this is an hour-long video where I just kind of walk you through all of the things that you should be thinking about as a new boater buying a pontoon or tri-tune, how they're built, just a lot of things that I think can be helpful for you. And that might be worth checking out. And that's just available on YouTube. So check that out. Let's see here. Brock, I grew up fishing Raystown. Beautiful scenery, great fishing. That's right. Brock's from up in the up in that area. Maryland area. I guess Central PA really isn't exactly there. I've got Argo and Navionics on my phone, but the phone overheats on the mount, shuts down, bite the bullet on the price, get a good setup that works with the stock transducer. Yeah. I don't really know what the answer is for the phone overheating because I've got the same problem. My problem is a lot of times I'm using my phone when I'm videoing, and I'll have that happen. And one of the things that I do is I take it out of the case. It seems to, my case is black, and I find that will help it cool down a little bit quicker. But even then, it still will shut down. Tony says, my Marina is adding more slips, making maneuvering in and out a chore. 23 Tytoon with the 150, a dual thrust prop, give me more control. Recommendation over the stock prop. You're not going to be able to put a counter rotating prop on that Yamaha 150. They don't make it for that. What you need to do, Tony, is I know you've got the best boat captain program, the best pontoon captain program, is what you need to work on is that pivot maneuver. It's building block number 8. And then the next thing that you need to do is figure out, based on where your slip is, what's typically the wind and the current and waves doing that's going to hit you there. When you figure that out, that's going to allow you to practice and just go to a no wake buoy somewhere. If you've got wind and current that are going to hit you, go out there and find a buoy the wind's going to hit you in the direction that it usually comes down that fairway at your marina. But I don't think, let's see, Tony, I don't know where you are, if you're freshwater or on the coast, but if you have current, it's just a matter of timing. It's a matter of getting your boat pivoted to be lined up to go into the slip, and then the timing. So you pivot it early, you let the current take you to the slip. We'll do it this way. You pivot the boat, boom, then you let the current drift you to where you need to be, and then you pull in. Okay. It's a matter of practice, getting real comfortable with that pivot maneuver and getting great control of your boat, which I've got enough stories from people that have invested in the best boat captain that if you follow the steps and you actually do the 9 building blocks, that you will get control of your boat. Okay. And then find a slip in your marina, find a slip at a transient dock that's a little bit easier than your slip, and just practice going into that slip. If you've got some wind and current, start. I always say, and I'd say it in the program, start in the easiest conditions you can. If you're struggling, start in, if you're on the coast at slack tide, if you're on the lake or a river, go at a time when you don't have much current, you don't have much wind, you don't have any traffic. Early in the morning is great. Late in the evening is great. Usually the wind dies down inland, and do some practicing. Getting good at controlling your boat will be more valuable to you than any extra tool or technology outside of upgrading to a joystick control. Okay. When you know how your boat operates and you have total control of your boat, which is what the 9 building blocks are all about, you can really get yourself in almost any position, and do it, I won't say easily, but do it confidently. And the other thing is, even I've been doing it for, I started driving the boat when I was 16. I created this program. I'm a pretty good boat handler. I will miss from time to time. It happens. A gust of wind picks up, a wave comes at you that kind of throws you off. You just I'll do this is I'll be talking to somebody on the dock or jibber jabbering while I'm trying to do it, and I just lose focus on what I'm doing. And well, then I got to back it out a little bit. Just be slow and deliberate. Understand how your boat operates. For your pontoon is sometimes doing as little as putting the bimini top back, just laying that bimini back so you don't have that big parachute catching wind. That can be the difference between making it super easy on you and being more challenging. So, but I wouldn't mess with the prop. If you really, if it's too difficult and you don't want to put in the practice, you don't want to learn the controlling. They are making. Who makes the pontoon bow thruster? All right, so Side Shift is started making a bow thruster for tunes. Now, I don't know anything about these. I just know that they're out there. Um, so let's see. Oh wait, is this? I think this guy reached out to me, and I wasn't sold on the durability of it, but he was still in idea phase. But this, I wonder if this is him. This isn't the one I was thinking of, but anyway, doesn't look like that's what I want to pop up. I want to see the device. He certainly doesn't have any great pictures. Pontoon thrusters. I'm not seeing. So outboard stern drive, joystick, docking system. So it looks like $5,700 for the system. 3,700 for outboard stern drive mounted stern thruster. So if you want the joystick, it's 57. I'm not sure how you control this one if you don't have a joystick, but that's 37. But anyway, it drops down. Looks like it drops down. There we go. Let's see how that looks. Kind of a trolling motor that drops down from the tune. Now you've got it sitting there. So that's what I didn't like about it when the way he was describing it to me in the prototypes is if you take a big wave on that, I was concerned, but it looked like he made this. Let me go big. Looks like he made sort of a wave shield protector that is going to protect it a little bit. So anyway, that's interesting. That I bet that is that same guy because the concept looks very similar to what he described to me. Oh shoot, this was 4 years ago, maybe even more. So anyway, so you could do something like that. For me, $3,700 plus installation is I'm going to learn to control my boat better. I'm going to put the effort in, and it's also more fun. I believe it's more fun to get good at handling your boat. I think I told the story last week. Is I backed in my in-laws Cobalt into it was on the seawall. It was pretty tight. There's a boat club right there, so I brought the boat around, backed it into the slip, got it all tied up, and this guy said, "Man, that was some good boat handling." And it's still even now I'm like, "Yeah, thank you, I appreciate that." And it's just a little thing, but there is a pride I think that comes with being able to handle your boat. And for me, $3,700, if you spend a couple of days out practicing and really going through those building blocks and doing the build, get really good at building block number 8 and doing building block number 9, Tony, I think you'll really be able to knock it in there with your prop. And remember, in building block number 5, I think we talked about the P force, understanding the P force of your boat, the propeller force that prop is going to want to prop walk. Understanding how that works in forward and reverse is going to make a difference. So, all right. Awesome. I'm very glad that that's what you were looking for. 211, Jason, good to have you. Hopefully, Jason, that you watched the trim video so that your wife's tailbone can recuperate in comfort, and hopefully you got out on the water out on Lake Cumberland. Mark says, how long a rope do you use for your towables? I see a few lengths. How long is mine? I would venture to say, I don't remember off the top of my head, but wow, towable 4,000. This is the one I have, 60 feet. That doesn't seems like mine's a little bit shorter than that, but maybe not. Let's see here. All right, I'm gonna try to in my mind coil it up. Yeah, maybe it is 60 feet. But that's the one that I have. It's hanging down in the garage right now. It's this WOW one. I like go ahead and get the heaviest duty one. That way you're set if you get a bigger one. I also like that because if you do need to tow somebody in, you need to get towed in, you've got a big durable tow rope that you can use. It can do double duty, and $43 versus the cheap one, the 1,000-pound one is still probably 20. So for an extra $20, I've got a dual purpose rope, and this is for one rider. So, but that one is 60 as well. Yeah, I bet that's the length of mine, and I personally like it to be a little bit on the shorter side. Like the ski rope is usually going to be 75 feet. Even when I'm skiing, I usually tie off the ski rope shorter. I like to have them a little bit closer to the boat for a couple of reasons. And this is for kids. This may not be necessary for adults. Although when I was slalom skiing, my brother and I like to have the rope short because that was a better spot in the wake for us to cut back and forth. The wakeboard, it's more of where's the wake got the best curl for the best air, if you're that advanced. But I like to have my kids closer to the boat for a couple of reasons. One is I can, when I'm getting the rope to them and they're behind the boat, I can still talk to them. They're not so far back that they can't hear. I can hear them a little bit better. And also when you turn, remember that centrifugal force. We talk about this in the Tow Water Sports with Confidence program, because every year a couple of people pass away because of this, because they put them on a tube and they're on a small lake, or they're in a cove, or they're closer to the docks than they need to be. They turn, that tube goes swinging, or the skier goes swinging, and they don't have control yet. And centrifugal force just sends them right out, right into an obstruction, a dock, another boat, a buoy, a marker, something. And that force is also going to speed them up. So the shorter the rope, the less that centrifugal force is, the more swing they get, and it's not as fast, right? the longer the rope, the wider the swing, the faster they're going to be. So that's why I like to keep them close. And I'm very aware of what's happening and where they're at and my distances. But it's less to worry about, in my opinion. So, and especially on the tubes, especially kids on the tubes, I like to have it. Matter of fact, when they were real little, I tied even the rope we have now. I tied that off even shorter when we would pull them when they were 3-4 years old, because I just wanted to be close. We were going nice and slow, and that is my personal preference. So still get ropes, Ray, thinking about one of those booster balls. Yeah, the booster balls will definitely help with that. And they've got like the sports stuff where they've actually got the ball, and then you can just tie your rope on each side. Some of them, well, I think it's the WoW one that let's see here. Booster ball. Some of them they feed through the rope. Looks like this one does it that way. And I prefer when they tie on, when they go through the rope, your end knots can kind of allow it to move where you don't want it. But that will reduce the spray and will help them out. Yeah, yeah, Corey, he was. And what's interesting is, this is my wife's grandfather. Is He was a very accomplished man. He was involved in agriculture and the university system up in West Virginia, and he was in the 4-H camps in the West Virginia 4-H group. But like I said, I'd known him for 16, what have I been with my wife, 16, 17 years. I didn't know half the stuff that he did because he never talked about it. Even I was talking to my mother-in-law, and she said she doesn't remember talking about the war, which makes sense. I mean, I wasn't in the military, but I could only imagine if you go through what those guys in World War II, I mean, any combat, something that I couldn't even imagine. I couldn't imagine being in a situation where people are actively trying to bomb and shoot me, and keeping your wits about you and seeing your friends not come back. That is yeah, it's something that takes a special person to do that, or you got to go to a special place if you get yourself in that situation. If he was drafted, well, no, I'll tell this story real quick because I'm a big fan of him, but he was in high school when World War II started. His brother was overseas, was in the service. He snuck into his high school because he was 17. He snuck into his high school, climbed up the wall, snuck in the window, and changed his birthday from 1926, and he marked it 1925 so that he would be 18 so he could enlist in the Navy. I think that's such a cool story that I'm sure there were a lot of kids that did something similar, or used a family members, or somehow got into the service when they were younger. But it was, yeah, he's climbed through a window in the school to adjust his records so that he could enlist in the Navy and be over there fighting with his brother. Yeah. Oh, all right. Joe says, "Hey, Captain Matt, I know you're a big fan of Cobalts. Looking at an R4 outboard. However, I see Regal, Monterey, Sea Ray in the same category that are cheaper." Joe, it depends. Cobalt's better. Like, Cobalt is, you can see different. Like, I could probably point out 10 things real quick on that R4 compared to the Regal and the Sea Ray. I would put Monterey down below Regal and Sea Ray, but there's probably 15 things that I could point to and say, look at the way they put the lamb's wool, and look at the stitching, and look at how thick the Velcro is on the canvas cover. Compare that to Sea Ray, compare that to the Regal. And if you're going to compare Sea Ray, you've got to compare the SLX or the SDX if you like the deck boat layout. You can't compare the SPX. P as in Paul. You can't compare that. That's in a lower category. On the Regal, the 20 Regal boats. On the Regal boats, I think you can compare them all. Yeah, you can't compare the 2000 ES. It doesn't have the same level of appointments as the LS series for Regal, but that's if you're looking at the R4, you're probably not looking at those. So yeah, the ride. I sold Sea Ray. I'm a big fan of Sea Ray. I love the 250 SLX. The 250 SLX was my favorite boat. I ran a bunch of them. I sold a bunch of them, and I loved it. I love the looks. I love the ride. But my in-laws bought it's a 2018 R5, which is the direct competitor to the 250 SLX. It's a more solid riding boat. There are things about the Cobalt that you can just tell are better quality. I mean, it's not a gap like this. It's a little gap. I can notice it. Experienced boaters can notice it. If you ran the boats a bunch, you would notice it. But if you're a first time boater, you may not even see the differences or notice how it impacts. But the hardware is just more sturdy. Now, here's why I say this, that it depends, is because you could go your whole life and buy that Sea Ray, buy that Regal, and have an absolute love affair with that boat. You'd be like, this boat is the best boat I've ever been on. I love it. Great decision. It's been awesome. Because the differences, although they're there, are pretty thin. What I tell everybody is, if I like those four, I'm gonna go to the dealer that's best, and I'm gonna go to the price that's best. And if it's let's say it's a $5,000 to $7,000 to $10,000 gap on that R4 versus the Sea Ray 230 SLX or the Regal whatever, I don't know, the Regal, is it the LX4? '24, yeah. So we'll say the LX4. The dealer is going to have an impact because the difference between the boats, although is going to be thin. The difference between the dealers could be significant. And then you also have to say, is that extra little bit, although it's there, is it worth the extra $5,000, $7,000, $10,000 to you? Because my father-in-law, when he was buying boats, he said, I'm thinking about this. What should I get? I know my father-in-law. He is the best of the best. It fits his budget. If he's going to buy something, he's going to buy the best. It's even a joke in the family that if they do something, he does it at the top level. And if it's not perfect, it pisses him off. So he would be, if there was any little thing, or even just not having the best brand, he wouldn't be happy. So it was worth it for him to invest that extra to get the prestige and the value and that little bit extra quality. And it fit his budget. That extra $10,000, although doesn't waste money, he also wasn't going to impact their family's finances at all. So that's the direction I said, yeah, one, you're getting a good deal on the boat. The price that he got was a good value. He could have bought a Sea Ray or a Regal, certainly a Monterey. Monterey is definitely, the gap is bigger between Cobalt and Monterey. And it was worth it for him. For other people that I talked to, I've said, you know, I ask in my toolkit, I don't know where mine is, but in my toolkit, I asked the question, what cars do you buy? So my father-in-law just bought ordered a brand new Ford F-150, customized it exactly, or I'm sorry, F-250, customized it exactly how we wanted it. And that, so when I look at the cars that they buy, they get exactly what they want in the color, and they usually custom order, or the dealer calls them and says, hey, we got a color that I think you would really love with all the options. And so that kind of translates into the boat. If you're somebody that's like, I like good quality, but I'm also concerned about the value within that top level quality, and I would switch to get a little bit more savings and still be in the premium tier. Well, then you're going to be, and the dealer is good. So that's always a caveat. And the dealer is good for that brand. Then you're going to be very happy with a Regal or a Sea Ray. The Monterey, I'm going to tell you, is if you're a premium person, you would be happier with the Cobalt or the Sea Ray or the Regal than you would with the Monterey, for sure. There's probably some things that would, if you are a premium level buyer, that when you look at that Monterey, you'd be like, I'm just not happy with that after I've seen some of the other boats. So, yeah, it's hard. I try to do a good job of remembering that everybody's got their own preferences, and the is it worth it? And just like the question on the pontoon, we went a little speed. Well, a little speed to you might mean different than a little speed to me. Worth it to you is definitely different than worth it to me. For me, I'm not going to buy a Cobalt. One, my budget doesn't allow me to buy a Cobalt. So it just, that conversation doesn't even work. But it is nice. I got to tell you, I love running that R5, because it's a rock solid boat, and it rides like a champ, and it just looks sweet. It's all white above the waterline, and it's black below the waterline. It's just a pretty lines, pretty boat, pretty everything. And so I know that doesn't answer your question, but hopefully it gives you enough to think about there, Joe, for your decision. Let's see, John O'Brien, welcome, John. Just got off Green Lake in Wisconsin, beautiful weather. All right, John, you're a new one here, so anytime I get a new body of water or a new boating area, I like to check it out. So Green Lake, Wisconsin. Welcome to the channel as well. All right, so let's see here. Pleasant Point, Green Lake. Is that in the middle of a national forest? Nope. Just green, just the Midwest. Puckaway Lake. All right, so let's take a look at what we got here. All right. Looks like that house is on it. What is this? Is that I can't tell if that's white caps or if that's a sandbar, or if that's just wind and white caps. Interesting. John, if you can tell me right here around Malcolm Bay, if that's depth, water depth changing, or if that is something else going on the hotel and conference center. Greenway House Bed and Breakfast. Nice. Well, welcome, John. Thanks for letting us take a look at your boating area. We have a trip planned to Lake of the Ozarks at the end of August for a week. Yeah, Chase Banks. My family. I'm almost certain my brother was down there for the shootout this past weekend. Um, Ozarks, Nangua Bridge. So we are. All right. So this is fishing company. Um, Shorty Pants is, let's see, Redheads is right here. I think Shorty Pants is back in this if they're still open. Paradise. Um, we are, the cave is right here, just past the Niangua Bridge. It's been there 2 years, maybe. Real cool. The restaurant's built into the cave and everything else. Everything's outside, but if the weather comes up, they've got the pool goes into the cave, and there's a swim up bar, and there's tables and cornhole in the sand there. But we're back over here by the Niangua Bridge, and this is, I said, we started going to the lake in 79, and we would stay right here. Actually, no, I take that back. We were on this side of the bridge, right there, almost where that dot is at. It was called, oh shoot, I just forgot the name of the. It's been sold and it's condos now, but that was where this side of the lake is where we go, and we usually go this way as well, to where it's a little bit quieter. Down here towards Osage is where all the big boats, big um a lot of the bars and restaurants are down that way as well. RZ Sea Ray 190 SPX outboard 2021, a good boat to buy. 20 hours, Mercury 115, first time buyer. My first reaction is a Mercury 115 seems slow. That seems small for a 190, and it's there's RZ. There's a lot of questions that I need to ask. Okay, so one, what kind of boating do you want to do, and where are you going to do it? Who are you going to do it with? Okay. And then even the 115 Pro XS, maybe that's a good power plant for it, but that seems small. It seems like that might be underpowered if you're going to put 6 people in the boat and you still want to have some speed. Okay. Um, let's see here. Sea Ray 190 SPX. I would think a 150 would be more appropriate for that boat. If you want a little bit of speed, and again, it goes back to how you're going to use the boat. If it's just you and another person, yeah, maybe that 115 is going to do the trick, and you're not going to, you are not going to do a lot of water sports. You're not going to, I just want to see what the power options are. Yeah, the 150 is a $4,200 upgrade. I haven't run it with the 115, but RZ, my gut reaction is, unless it's just going to be two of you, maybe two and two adults and a kid, and you're not super fast runners, that the 115 might work for that situation. But if you're going to put 6 people on the boat, especially if 4 of them are adults, you want to do some water sports, I would think you would be much, much, much happier with the 150, the 150, right here. But again, it is. This option is not available with your previous selection. All right. but it's $4,200. But I would say for most applications that would be a good upgrade. And then the other thing is, what are you going to do on your boat? If you're going to fish, not a great setup. But if you want a little cruiser, you want to cruise around, you want to do some water sports, you want to go to the sandbar, you want to anchor out. It's going to be a good option. If are you at the coast? Do you think you're going to go out in open water? Um, not this boat's not designed to be out in the open ocean. But if you're going to run around the intercoastal waterways, you're going to be in some well protected bays. Yeah, it could be a good option. As far as quality goes, it's a good boat. Sea Ray makes better ones. Their SLX series is better made. But inspect the boat really well. Make sure that the things that aren't perfect on it that you're aware of and that you're okay with. There's going to be the SPXs have had some little things in the 2020 2021 models that weren't done great at the factory. The fit and finish isn't up to the normal level that you would expect from a Sea Ray, but it's a good mid-tier boat, in my opinion. And but it depends on how you're going to use it. So that's right. Okay. Chase Banks, thank you. Every time I've done this to you, I knew you had a 240 Sun Deck. I've even pulled up the picture on previous ones. It's just like there's somebody that's got a chaparral, Matt, with the chaparral that I always forget. So, all right, let's see. We're at an hour now. Let's see. Oh, Cletus McFarland uploaded a boat race video here in Washington. It's pretty cool. Check it out when you get a chance. Thank you, Bo. I will definitely do that. And I appreciate the contribution. If you want, every now and again, I'll scroll through the comments, and if I see somebody made a financial contribution, I'll jump right to them. Farland boat race Washington. I'm gonna pull this up here. Cletus races jet boat. Oh, Port Angels, Washington. Oh, I've seen this type of boat racing, but I've never been to one live. So I'm gonna put that over there for when we finish up. Thank you, Bo. I appreciate it. I appreciate it for sure. Where am I at? Okay, RZ. So tell me a little bit more about your situation, and I'll share some more thoughts if you want. Brock, you can't go wrong with Garmin, Simrad, Lowrance, or Humminbird. Had the Bluetooth Mercury gateway on my Ranger just to be able to read the engine hours and maintenance log from the SmartCraft. I believe the SmartCraft screen by Mercury actually read into depth, but I think you have to hook up to the NEMA cable with your graph to read those metrics. Awesome. Thank you, Brock. I appreciate you sharing that insight. Who was that asked that? Was that Corey that asked that? Anyway, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. All right. Mark Sanderson says, greeting. Thanks for the service. Not sure if this is the correct venue, but my question about closed loop IO versus modern outboards for 80% fresh, 20% salt, Chesapeake Bay, does a closed loop system work as well as an outboard? It's much better than an open water, just pulling the raw water up and in, and it's hard to get that flushed out. The outboards are really tough to beat because you have you've just got gravity that's gonna drop it. You can run them later into the year. You don't have the winterization. Although if you're talking the Volvo closed loop system, I mean, you hit that plunger, turn a couple valves, and it's pretty simple if you want to run that boat again. So I would put the outboard ahead for a couple of reasons. And it also depends on, let me see if you say this. Yeah, Mark, I'm also curious what style of boat. So here's one reason why I would like the outboard better if you are leaving the boat in the water, is because the outboard can actually tilt up and out of the water all the way. I don't have trim on this on my little toy boat, but you get the concept. It can tilt up, and now the whole lower unit's out of the water. Whereas, and Jerry can attest to this. Jerry's got a 28 Regal Express with Volvo drives, and he's really having to watch his anodes this year, because he started getting a little bit of corrosion, and so you do have to watch out for that. Now, if it's just 20% of the time in salt water, and let's say you're running down through brackish to get into salt, and then you're coming back home to fresh, or maybe you're trailering it, I don't know. But in that case, run your salt away, do a really good flush, and spray everything down. And I would put the outboard ahead slightly, um, but not significantly, unless the caveat, unless the boat lives in the water, then there's advantages to be able to tilt up that outboard out of the water, even in freshwater. Even in freshwater, I feel that's an advantage, because you don't have to worry about the corrosion on the lower units. You don't have to worry about electrolysis and those anodes getting eaten up, and then your paint going, and then your gear casing going. So there's advantages there, but the closed loop system is a drastic improvement versus the open system that's just pulling the raw water in, because you don't have to worry about that salt getting up and in. Everything's running through that heat exchanger, and you've got antifreeze that's up running into the engine components. All right. So should I go with gateway to NEMA? Go from there. The transducer hooks into the SmartCraft. Should work with that setup. It should work that way. I like that. Never ran a boat with that setup. I imagine it's similar to Garmin. Use the J1939 connector, plugs into my Garmin, reads all the engine data. Yeah, getting the appropriate cable. I know there's a ton of them out there. Getting that is key. No current but unpredictable winds, but I will definitely work on the building blocks. Thanks. Yeah, Tony, the bimini, laying that bimini back, it's amazing how much difference that makes especially if it's sporadic wind that just kind of, you get a gust, and you've got, the other thing that can happen is you've got some wind shadow. So I'll use my book that's still a work in progress. It's still at the editor's, but you've got so you've got the wind shadow here. Works this way more often than not. So you're protected from the wind, but as soon as you get past that, now you can see your bow is going to start getting blown away as soon as you pass that wind shadow, and that can be challenging, especially if it's gusty or unpredictable. But again, it's that timing, and know that if you go in and that gust comes up, just calm and just pull that throttle back, reverse, and start again. Like I said, I just came from Tennessee via West Virginia, but my in-laws, their dock is the channel comes blowing right down right into their cove, and there's no break. So sometimes you'll get a gust coming, you'll get a wave coming. And so what I like to do is, let's say this is the dock right here. I'll come, and the wind's blowing this way. So I'll come here and I'll just slowly inch my nose up until I get to the point where I can pull in, and just past the dock right there. And that way, even if I go over more, I've got a little bit of space there. And they've got maybe 6 inches on each side. So I've got an extra foot to play with. And that can be helpful. You just slowly let the boat drift, and then pull in. And that can give you a little bit of extra leeway. If the wind picks up, that's fine. It'll just move you a little bit quicker, and then you can dip in there. You're welcome, Tony. Depth from the Garmin transducer and radio functions, since my JL Media Master is also networked. I'm going to add the Yamaha screen to free up the engine data of my Garmin. Started pricing them more expensive to go that route versus another 7-inch. All right, awesome, Brock. Thank you for having that conversation with him. John O'Brien, we've got an 04 Sea Ray 22 Select 320 horsepower. Awesome. That's up on the Wisconsin lake that we just looked at. Was that it? No, that was Raystown Lake in central PA. All right. Let's see here. I like that. I started selling Sea Rays in 09. And so I ran a bunch of the 2000 to 2010. I ran a bunch of those as we bought in on trade, and so I really like those. I like those selects as well. The LS4, yeah, that would be comparable. What's your opinion on the Silverton 41 motor yacht? Probably one in the 90s. All right, so Taylor, this is my recommendation for you. How to buy a used cruiser. All right, so this video, which you cannot see, this video right here, how to buy a used express cruiser. But it's still going to be very applicable to a motor yacht. And Silverton built a good boat. Here's the thing: is that boat's 30 years old. Okay, so what's more important is the 41 Silverton that you're looking at. What's that boat? So what you need to do is, one, is you need to make sure that that's the right style of boat for you based on how you're going to use it. And then you need to go through and figure out, is that a good boat? So structurally, mechanically, all of the systems on the boat, the AC, the water heater, the plumbing, the gray water tanks, the fuel cell. Is there any delamination? Was there ever a water leak in the cabin? Is there somewhere where water's getting in that's causing delamination or causing mold? Have they replaced the AC or the water heater or the refrigerator or the stove? Or is all that original? All the bilge pumps, do they all work? Does the head smell? Have they replaced any of the plumbing? Has the duct valve been replaced? All of that is the stuff that you need to go through and kind of figure out, what can I inspect? And then I can weed out any of the boats that don't pass my inspection. That's pretty easy. And then I need to have a surveyor on standby. So when it passes my inspection, I can then call in the surveyor, do a survey. 100% do a survey if you're buying anything in that vintage and that size, especially if you're newer to boating, because there's no way that you know all of the things to inspect. You just don't have that expertise. Whereas a surveyor is going to know, all right, a 41 Silverton motor yacht, I definitely need to check these 5 things because I know they're notorious for having these issues. If they fixed it and they've done the upgrade, we're golden. If they haven't, there's a repair in your future that you need to be aware of. Maybe it's don't buy the boat. Maybe it's buy the boat knowing that that's there and use that as a negotiation strategy. The other thing that you need to understand is the surveyor is going to check the structural components of the boat and the systems, probably do a sea trial. They should do a sea trial, but they're not going to inspect the engines. Okay. So that 41 Silverton probably has diesels, probably. But you also want a technician, if you're not capable of doing this, a technician to go through those engines and tell you, yes, these engines have a lot of life left in them. You're in good shape. Or, hey, these engines have not been very well maintained. The oil looks terrible. There's, the shaft is bent. There's something going on that I'm going to encourage you to stay away from. The surveyor may find those things, but their primary concern is the boat structure and the system. And a mechanic's prime focus is the engine. And that's their thing. So I would definitely have both of those inspected. And don't forget the generator. The surveyor will run the generator and do some checks there, but just make sure you know how much time is left on that generator, how much time can you expect to get out of the AC system or the refrigerator or the water heater, what has and hasn't been updated. Because after, if it's a 93, that's a 30-year-old boat. And, a water heater, it's got maybe a 20-year life. So if they haven't replaced that, guess what? You're going to have to replace soon after buying that boat. The air conditioning, that's only got certain life left in it. So knowing what's been done, who did it, how did they do it, did they do it right, and the surveyor will find all that. So hopefully, Taylor, that's helpful for you. Doing boating, Southwest Florida. Yeah, so the outboard's great for Southwest Florida. You're definitely canals, waterways, you're going to be okay. But that is not a boat to take through Haulover Inlet. Okay, that's not a boat to take out 5 miles offshore. So if that's okay with you, then you'll be good with that 190 SPX. But it just depends. Well, Joe, wait a second. No, that was RZ that was looking at the 190 SPX. Joe, what were we talking about? Oh, Joe, we were talking about the Cobalt. Okay. Joe. Yeah, so that's another Joe, think about, and if you're looking at the outboard version, I would definitely look outboard if you're running it at the coast in Southwest Florida. Yeah, there's a video I did called Bowrider versus Dual Console. All right, so this video right here is one that I'm not sure. I'm not sure, but this may be of interest to you. I don't know enough about your boating style. I didn't ask that question. I jumped right into the value of part of the question. But watch this video because I want you to think about your boating style as you watch that. I think it might tell you, great, I'm on the right track, or it may tell you, oh, maybe I need to adjust my thinking here a little bit, and I'm not sure. 280. Okay, that's on that Sea Ray we were talking. Been to the cave, dog days, shade. Yep, for sure. We are almost directly across and under the bridge. No, I couldn't do that when I'm live from the cave. So you'll love it there. Uh-oh, we got Galaxy Girl is back. What you got going on? Don't drink my water. Will you go fill that up for me, please? I've been talking for an hour and a half.
No.
Thanks, babe.
You're welcome.
All right.
Get water.
Went to Harrison Lake, British Columbia last April. 20-foot Gillespie. All right, so I'm gonna. All right, it's a little cuddy cabin, nice, and Harrison Lake. So that is, let's see, British Columbia, Vancouver, in the mountains there. Bear Creek, Long Island. All right, that looks pretty undeveloped from wherever this area that I'm at. Thank you guys for indulging me. And I don't know if you enjoy this or not. I hope you do. I just find it very interesting to look at other areas. That looks very undeveloped. Oh, there we got some condos, maybe marinas, dockside water charters. Nice. But yeah, that looks beautiful. Kind of very, very well protected off the Harrison River and in the mountains. Pretty nice. Thank you, BC. All right, Billy. Billy, welcome. I don't recognize the name. Been watching several dealers on their used boats for a while now. No price drops. When do you think this happens? When you go in there and talk to them and say, hey, I want to buy this boat, but I don't want to pay the price that you have, and see what they have to say. Because here, and we are August, right? No. Tomorrow's the 31st. And so August, they've got another month left of selling. Okay. So if you're, and Billy, it depends on when, or depends on where you're located. The further north you are, the sooner you'll see the price drops, because they know when Labor Day hits, it's time to change gears, and we start pulling docks, and we start hauling boats, and we start shrink wrapping. Okay. Day after Labor Day. Matter of fact, next week, they're probably starting to send emails saying, hey, get on the list for shrink wrapping, for winterizations, and for haul outs and whatever. So they get that mindset of discounting a little bit quicker than I'm in the Carolinas. For us, yeah, we really slow down and people start winterizing after Labor Day. But that's more of a function of, because the kids go back to school, they're not going to be using the boat as much. And hey, we can get a discount if we do it early. But we can boat well into October typically in this area. So those discounts are going to come a little bit later. It also depends on what used boat are you looking at. Maybe it's a highly desirable boat, and they know if they hold tight, somebody's going to buy it in the next 30 days for the price they want to sell it without discounting. That person could be you, because if you go in there and you talk to them, they're going to be more likely to discount than just to post a discount on the web, where let's say they wanted to get 50,000 for the boat. If they leave it at 50,000 and somebody walks in and says, yeah, I'll pay 50,000, great. But if they drop it to 45, Now they just lost $5,000. Even if that person would have paid 50, they lost that opportunity. So a lot of times it's their negotiation strategy that allows for that drop, whereas they're not just going to drop the price on the internet. Sometimes they will, but that's typically that's going to happen as we get closer and closer to Labor Day. And again, the further south you are, the closer, or maybe even after Labor Day that happens. The further north you are, the sooner before Labor Day you might see it happen. But that's what you're going to do. But if you see a boat that you like, hey, reach out to them and walk it. I promise you that walking into the dealership and being there is going to give you more discount than trying to negotiate from a distance or negotiate on email. Because here's their mindset. And I know this because I was that person. I was that salesperson. Somebody emails me and says, hey, what's the best offer, or what's the lowest price you would sell this for out the door? My immediate reaction is, this person isn't serious about the boat. And they're not going to pay what the boat's worth, because all they care about is price. They haven't even come viewed the boat. They haven't even looked at it. So they don't know the condition it's in. They don't know anything about the boat, and they went my best price. You're not going to get the best price by doing that. It's just not how the dealer salespeople think. When you walk in and you see the boat and you inspect the boat, now they say, oh, Billy's serious. Billy's an actual buyer. He's not just wasting our time, and he's not just using my price to negotiate against another dealer closer to him. He's not just using this and just curious. Billy's in the store looking at the boat. He likes the boat, but he doesn't want to pay 50 for it. He wants to pay 40. Hey, manager, owner, can we come down to 45? I think we can get him at 45. Great. 40. Hey, Billy, I got him down to 45. Now I only want to pay 40. Really? Yeah, I only want to pay 40. You use the magic money saving method that we share with you. If you want to take advantage of that in the First Time Boat Buyer Academy, and you use those lines and you use those strategies, and then you just go back and you say, nope, I like the boat, but it's the end of the season. Labor Day's in a couple of weeks. I'm going to have to winterize it, and I'm going to pay for storage until May comes around. I got to buy gear for it. I got to register it. We don't know what the economy is going to do. It's an election year. All those things that are in the general manager's mind of, holy crap, should I discount this or should I not? You're throwing all that out there. And now you hold tight at 40, and they say, well, I can come down to 42. And now you make your decision of, do I want to pay 42 or not? But just waiting for the price to start falling on the internet, that's not going to happen, in my opinion, until much closer to Labor Day, which is what? It's still 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks away, really. Yeah, I mean, so they're still another couple of weeks from doing it, even in the colder climates, unless they have a lot of inventory. They got a lot of inventory, all bets are off. They want to get rid of it. But if they just got a couple, and looking at the numbers, the used boat market is still holding pretty strong. The new stuff, they're discounting more, giving rebates. Manufacturers are giving rebates, but the used is still holding pretty strong in a lot of segments. So a few things to think about. 20 to 24 foot trailerable. Mark, what were we talking about? You can tell my brain is slow today because I am not keeping up with. Okay, we were talking about closed loop. I'm not keeping up with our. Okay, yeah. So in that situation, I'm not concerned. I don't have the outboard benefit of leaving it in the water. Be sure to flush it real well, even though it's closed cooling. And yeah, I am in that situation. You're going to trailer. You're going to be in freshwater a majority of the time. Yeah. I am not leaning outboard, other than the one benefit of winterization is slightly easier. And that's minimal. if the swim platform, the open swim platform, if that's advantageous to you, then I would be totally fine with that closed cooling system and running it in salt 20% of the time for sure. Sustainability, welcome, good to have you. Joining you guys from the Petite Lake, Illinois, watching the sunset. That is the way to do it. I like this. We've got a lot of lakes to check out here. Petite Lake, Petite. Am I saying that right? All right. So we are right off a Grass Lake, Fairmont Shores, Nippersink Lake, Fox Lake. What is that? Pistiki Lake. All right. Got a couple houses on the water. Petite Lake Sandbar Boat Party. I like that. Oh, look at that. Let me go big on that. So this is, I can't tell if that's a carved out bay. Or, okay, that looks like it might just be a sandbar that all those boats are rafted up in. That's awesome. That is awesome. What is this? Just a little canal. There, we used to, my buddy in high school, his family had a little cabin on Ginger Cove or Ginger Woods, one of those two. But it was a much smaller lake than this, but they had what's called the Skinny River. It was an island that you could go through, and it was a great place to slalom ski. It was perfectly smooth back there, but it was skinny. When you cut, you could easily get too close to the bank, and if you weren't really good, you get yourself in a lot of trouble. But it was awesome cutting back and forth back there. That's what that reminded me of. Interesting. That's kind of cool how they've got these little islands in there and those little almost canals in between. Very nice. Great place to watch the sunset. Enjoy. And thanks for joining us. Wisconsin lakes, wife and 2 kids, the COVID year, 15 concerns me as well. Yeah, then that boat's a perfect boat for that situation. Midwest lake, that size boat, 2 kids. As the kids get bigger and older, I think that 115 is that's what jumps out at me. If they want to bring, like, my girls are 9 and 12, and they're starting to, hey, we got to bring a friend. So now your family of 4 turns into a family of 6. And then that 115, you got an extra, even if they're 100 pounds, you get an extra 200 pounds on the boat. That 115 starts to get small. Although that Pro XS, it runs better than the 4-stroke, because it winds up to a little higher RPM. I still, that 150 RZ, my just gut tells me you would be happier with it, especially if you're already thinking that. And the COVID year, the reality is 2020 and 2021 boats on average had more issues than boats that were built in 19 and boats that were built now in 2023. So not that they were awful, but they certainly had more issues that you need to watch out for. Trust me when I say you haven't lived until you've seen those boat races live. It's like your first Super Bowl game in NASCAR. It's unforgettable. That, yeah, I don't even know. I don't even know if they do those boat races around here. We were Saint or Bo, I'll call him Bo. He's the one that did the intro for our lives, and he mentioned Cletus McFarland running in this boat race. It's these jet boats. I'm going to try to. They're these little jet boats that just haul around. They got a navigator and a driver, and it just looks fun. So, all right, Jim Zappa, how you doing? Welcome. It's a new name I don't recognize. Welcome to the live. Keep losing my signal, constantly dropping. Awesome. I appreciate it, Tony. And again, I appreciate you investing in the best pontoon captain as well. Huntsville, Alabama. So we were talking about, Billy. What boat were we talking about? Okay, so price drop. So yeah, so in Huntsville, you're in that warmer climate. I mean, you really down there can boat 12 months out of the year, right? So, but Labor Day is still a break point. Kids going back to school, boating time becomes not the main focus. So I would give it another, I'd probably 3 to 4 weeks. But again, Billy, walking it if you're ready. Now, if you're not ready and you're just sort of monitoring the market and you're waiting, the the best time if those boats are available is to walk in November. Um, Walk in November. They close for December, November or December, and say, I like that boat, but again, I don't like it at 50. I like it at 40 or whatever your number is. And then you don't have to continue the negotiation in person. You can do it after the fact. You can walk out the door. Good negotiating technique. Still too high. And then, call them every couple of weeks and be like, hey, that boat, or email them, that boat that I really liked, I still like it at 40. Are you there yet? And then as they get closer to December, closer to the end of the year, closing out the books, maybe it would be nice to get that boat off the books, get the revenue booked in 2023, and not carry that boat into 2024 and wait for the season to start again. So just a couple of thoughts that are hopefully helpful for you. Jim Zappa, I grew up in the Midwest on inboards. Now I live saltwater. Want to get an open bow 1921. Which used boat would you point me towards? Years, makes, can adjust to outboards. Jim, I grew up in Nebraska, so I grew up with stern drives. I grew up in inland lakes. And I remember the first time I went boating at the coast, a buddy of mine, his dad had was it a 40 something sedan bridge that we were in our early 20s. We would go and party our asses off and stay on the boat. And then we would try to go fishing in the morning. Most of the time we didn't leave the dock because we were all hungover and just went and grabbed breakfast and started the day slowly, went to the sandbar. But saltwater boating is awesome. Getting used to the outboards. There's a lot of advantages to the outboards that, other than the swim platform, access to the water, which is for you and I is different. At the coast, they don't think anything of it. But a few things that I would look at is this video right here that I mentioned to, I don't remember who it was I mentioned to, but this bow rider versus dual console. If you like the bow rider style, if you grew up with inboards, a Nautique or Ski Supreme or something like that, the layout of the dual console may be of interest to you. Center consoles are super popular, depending on where, especially like the East Coast. Center consoles are everywhere. Instead of giving you brands, best and worst, this video right here, best and worst center consoles, this is 2 years old. It's getting close to 2 years old. It's getting close to 2 years old, but there are a ton of brands that you can see 60 right here that build fiberglass center consoles. But this, I'm talking, Matt. Best and worst center consoles under 26 feet. This will give you a good idea of the brands that are out there. Most of the brands in this video also make a dual console if you like that layout. And I think those two videos I think will be really, really helpful for you. And then also make sure if you're new to the coast, make sure you get some training, whether it's my Confident Coastal Boater program or whether it's just local knowledge, that you understand tides and you understand currents and you understand weather patterns at the coast. Those are three things that can get you in a lot of trouble, as well as going through inlets. That's another area that we don't have to deal with in inland lakes. And but at the coast, you deal with those four things every time you're out. And having a good handle on those would be helpful before you start hitting the water. So and also think about how you're going to use the boat there. Are you going to fish? Are you going to island hop, or are you going to sandbar? Are you going to go to restaurants? You going to do some water sports? What does that look like? And that will help you in the center console versus the dual console. First, there are some people that run nautiques down there. They run inboards and they surf down there in the waterway. It's doable, but just depends what you're looking for and exactly where you're at the coast. Billy, you're welcome. Hopefully that was valuable for you. BC Outdoor Adventures. If storing a boat with an outboard outside under a tarp, should the trim motor all the way down? I would trim it all the way down. It's going to take the pressure off the trim rams. So your seals are going to last a little bit longer. It's easier on everything, and it makes sure that the water drains out. Now this is more important in the wintertime, but if you imagine it trimmed up, water can collect in the prop hub. And in the wintertime, if that collects in there and it freezes, it's going to expand, and it can damage the internal gears and blow the prop hub, and it's just not good. So I would, if you've got the clearance, I would trim it all the way down and just let it sit like that. It's not terrible for it to sit up. It's just, I would say there's some advantages to tilting it down. If you've got the ability, just tilt it down. Just make sure that you're not going to damage your skeg or your prop by doing it, and make sure you tilt it up before you hit the road again, for sure. All right, so now I need to somehow get my outboard motor to trim. This is the second time I used it and I wasn't able to trim it. Green Lake, Wisconsin, 230 feet deep. Come on. Green. So I did my best top lakes in the US, in North America, I think it was. And there was one up in Washington State. Bo, you may know it. That was like 800 feet deep or something crazy. But 230 feet deep is still pretty good. All right, so we got some houses there. Oh, that's ice. That's what that is. Okay. All right. So that must have been what that was on that other lake that we looked at. Nice. I've got it's in Michigan, but my friends their families have a place on Torch Lake in Michigan, and the water's supposed to be just crystal clear. It's not crazy deep like that, but that's a place I want to get to just because of the water. Mark says, buy a cheap used bayliner for a first boat. Ton of used gems out there. Just my opinion, but a used truck and bayliner for the same price. My buddy has it as other brand. Yeah, Mark, that is for, and I talk about premium, mid-tier, and value. And I try to also do it in a way like, hey, I'm not a premium guy. That doesn't fit my budget. Getting out of the water, that's what I think is important. And for some folks, getting out of the water, if you can do it in the lowest cost possible, then you're not going to have the financial strain. You're not going to have the financial obligation that I have to get out on my boat. And you can certainly find a boat that's, like, who was it that asked about the 1990s Silverton? Is, hey, you don't need to spend $1 million to get a nice big cruiser, but you want to make sure you avoid the pitfall. So you can absolutely find a nice, inexpensive bayliner. I tell the story in my do bayliner suck video, which, spoiler alert, no, they don't. They're value boats, and they're built with less costly materials, and less skilled labor in a lot of situations than some of the more premium brands. They don't pay as much as the factory. There's a reason the boats are less expensive, because they use cheaper materials and less of it, and their labor costs are less. That's just how they get the boats cheaper. Does that make it unsafe? No. Does that make it a bad boat that you should never buy? Absolutely not. And my friends of mine bought a 15-year-old 20-foot bayliner. No, it wasn't even 20. It was a 18 or 19 even. But they bought it for $5,000. This was back in probably 2013 or 14, something like that. They bought it for $5,000 or $6,000, put $1,000 into it with some maintenance and upgrading the stereo, whatever. Ran it for 2 or 3 years. The kids got into baseball. They got into other stuff. They sold it for $5,000. And so it cost them $2,500 to have a boat plus fuel for the couple of years that they had it. That is about as cheap of anything that you can do with your family for entertainment. And it's a great way to enjoy boating and do it on a budget. You just need to make sure that the one that you buy is in good condition, has been treated well. But that is, Mark, I agree. That's a great advice for a lot of folks that are working on a tighter budget, or just don't want to spend the extra money. That's certainly too. Jim, good advice. Thank you. On the coastal boating, center consoles wouldn't be great. This is really for family rec use. Take the kids' wife cruising around OC shores and out to Catalina. Okay, Orange County shores, out to Catalina occasionally. Yeah, I would look at that dual console, and I like it because it's got higher gunnels than like a traditional bow rider. So if you do get caught in some chop, you get caught in a storm or something, and the water gets stirred up, it's going to be a much safer and drier ride for everybody on the boat. And you'll see it when you'll see it in this video, the differences, and I point them out there. So awesome. You're welcome, BC. I don't remember what I answered for you, but you are welcome. All right, we are at, oh shoot, we're almost at 2 hours here. We're gonna cut it here after the last questions. Mark says we are on Lake Schaefer, able to pull up dock at Indian Beach Amusement Park, ride the ride, small lake, small budget, huge that is about a perfect setup right there. I talked about it. Let's see, Lake Schaefer. I talked about, I guess we were in Tennessee last week, or no, whatever. 2 weeks ago, we went to the ski show, which is on our local lake on Lake Wiley every Friday. I think they got 2 more weeks left that they're doing it. But yeah, that's free. You give a donation. I actually gave them I sponsored a little small sponsorship just to support what they were doing to start the season. But for a $10 donation, you go out with your family, you get to watch an awesome ski show, pyramids and jumps and flips and barefooting and swivel skis and trick skis and all sorts of stuff. And that's pretty awesome. All right, so let's check this out. Where are we at? We're in Indiana, I think. Somewhere in Indiana, Liberty, Monticello. Lafayette. All right, so south of Chicago. Lost area access. All right, I got to see this amusement park right on the accessible by the lake. Where am I at? Oh man, there's a lot of houses right there. Look at that. That is awesome. Water park. That's merry-go-round right on the water. That is cool. I'd never heard of that. Thank you for sharing that, Mark. I'd never. I mean, that is a legit roller coaster, water slides, all looking right over the water. Wave pool. Nice. That's really interesting that it's right there. What's the nearest town there? I guess they got a bunch of camping stuff there. What is this? Monticello. Very cool. I knew that there's, what is it, in Okoboji? In Okoboji, they've got like a Ferris wheel right there, and obviously in Chicago, on Lake Michigan. But I'd never heard of that. I'd never heard of that setup there. Awesome. I would say, yeah, that is a small lake, huge value for sure. Mark, you're very welcome. Glad to help. Just bought a 93 16-foot Bayliner bow rider with the 120 force. Very nice. Take care of that force. Treat that thing right. Treat that thing right. And Rob, good night to you. Thank you. We're going to be wrapping up here. 83 16-foot Bayliner with the force. I assume that was just upgrading it from or updating it 93 to 83. Awesome, man. Well, thank you, everybody. This has been a really fun one. I am worn out. Bo, thank you for the update on Cletus McFarland. I'm going to be watching this video as soon as we wrap and checking that out. And we will catch you guys all. I'm done traveling. I think I've got a couple conferences that I want to check into when they are, but I will be here next Sunday. We'll do this again. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you next weekend.